Hello everyone, welcome to the second part of this animation and interaction design tutorial in Figma, where we are designing this really amazing interactive coffee mobile application. So if you click on the particular coffee, you get to the coffee details page and you can also go back. In our previous video, this is what we've been able to achieve, and in today's video we are going to look at these sliding options here. You'll be able to create these sliding options, and once you click on a particular coffee type, you are also going to be able to check the different sizes and also the different concentration level, and then we can go to the processing page. So guys, I'm going to be attaching a timestamp to the different sections of this video so you can easily switch to the part that you're most interested in. I'm also going to be leaving a link in the description section so that you can download all of the assets and images that was used in this tutorial. The link to the community file is also going to be available in the description section. So without further ado, let's get started from where we left off. Before we create the slider effect, I'm going to switch back to the design panel, and I'm going to move this coffee detail page that we created here down here. You want to make sure that you have the proper title here, as you can see here. So for this title, I'm going to rename this to this latte option here. So I'm going to rename this to latte, and you want to also make sure you track down the title from this original page here, which is on the title, and you want to change the text let's bring it in, change the text to latte, then you can take it back out. Right, so let's text that nothing went wrong with what we just did. So let's preview, click on this. Okay, everything works perfectly, right? We can also have this back transition button by going back to this screen. So if we click on this, you can see we have this transition effect back. Click on this, comes here, and this is good. This is okay. Now I'm going to close up this prototype and close this up. So we are good with transitioning to the next page. Now we need to create our coffee slider effect, which is being able to view the different options of coffee. So before we start doing that, I'm going to select the slider effect, and I don't want this positioning to be at align left. I want it to be at align bottom center. So I'm going to change it to align bottom center. And remember, we also have that here on this particular details page, which is probably this frame 40. So I'm going to select this and search for frame 40, which is this, and I'm going to change this to align bottom center also. So whatever effect you make or whatever changes you make to the elements here, you want to make to the elements here, even if it's visible or not. So once we have this, we can then select this home page and start creating the different options. I'm going to select this, select our main frame, and turn on our layout grid back, because this is the main reason why we have this layout grid. And then I'm going to be creating these options from the last one all the way to the first one, right? So this is the last one here. I'm going to just move it. I'm going to select this and give it a stroke so that we maintain the guide. But then I'm going to move it all the way to the left. Make sure it stays within the guide of these rules. Then I want to create a duplicate. Now we no longer have a use for this page, as we just used it to create the layout that we are going to be putting on the new page that we created. So you can go ahead and delete this initial layout that we created. So for this, we've created a duplicate of this. So for this next screen, we are trying to showcase the second to the last coffee option. And you can see that the width is 159. So we are going to select this last item, hit K on the keyboard, and revert it back to its original size, which is 159. So forget about the decimal point. It could be 159 point something or 158 point something. Don't really pay attention to that. So we are going to select This one, make sure you remove the stroke from it. We are not using the stroke for anything apart from guide. So you can take out the stroke, then you can reposition this to the middle, select this Americano, hit K on the keyboard and scale it up also. You want to also make sure you hit V on the keyboard back and then give it a stroke so that you can also be able to see where it starts and where it stops, and then you position it properly where it ought to be. Whenever you want to scale it down or scale it up, hit K on the keyboard and then scale it in or out. And you can also be looking at this 164, 165, that's fine. Hit V on the keyboard, select it and remove the stroke once you're done. So we have this for the Americano option. We are going to create the same thing. Make sure you remove the stroke from this last one also. So we're going to create the same thing for the second coffee option also. So I'm going to select this, hold down Alt, create a duplicate. And for that duplicate, of course, we want to make sure this is on the same line with the rest of these screens. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Select this Americano option and scale it down to 159, which is what I think we are using for the average height. 159 or 160 should be okay. So once you have that, I'm going to select the next one, which is the second coffee option, and scale it up till it gets here. Then I can now move it all the way to the middle. I can hit V on the keyboard to give it a stroke so that I can watch the guide in terms of where it starts and where it stops. Right, so once we have this, I'm going to select this, hit V on the keyboard, make sure I remove the stroke because we are done with this. And I'm going to select this and create another duplicate, which is going to now show the very first item. Make sure that this frame is in line with other frames because we are using a ruler guide here. And we want to revert this back to its original size or width of 159 or 160. Then select this first one and scale it up also till it hits this red mark. Then we are going to position it to the middle. Select this, hit V on the keyboard, turn on the stroke, and position it properly within this space. I think this is okay. So I'm going to select this also and remove the stroke. Great. Now we have these 4 different coffee options within this slide. And what I love about this and this duplicate that we just made is that all of these screens also have all of these components in it. So I also have what I call like a flow chart or a flow map here. You can see this copy app flow. And do not worry, I'm going to be leaving the link to all of these assets in the description section, and you can go to the Figma community and duplicate this and also practice your animation in Figma. So I already created a coffee app flow. I'm also going to be leaving the link to this in the description section. Now, what we are trying to achieve can actually scale to a large number of screens. As you can see here, you can see that we have this latte option. Once you click on it, you have the option of the small, medium, and large size, which is what we have here, the small, medium, and large size. And for the small can have a low, medium, or high concentration. The medium size can have a low, medium, and high concentration. The large size can also have the same thing. And that's what this particular flowchart is trying to replicate here. You can see that we have small with the concentration, you have the low, medium, high. The medium has a concentration of low, medium, high. So when you're creating animations like this and your priority is to create a prototype that is really interactive like this, you are most likely to create very large number of screens, right? If you're creating something that uses local variables and components and you want to reduce the number of prototype that you need to do, you might find it very difficult to achieve a very interactive design like this using Figma. So you're going to create a large number of screens, and we are not going to be doing that for all of these screens. So you want to have your cappuccino that is going to have its own set of screens. The macchiato is going to have its own set of screen. But for this, we are going to be making use of only the last element, which is the latte, which is why we started working with the last element here, right? And I also make sure that I have all of the elements to enable you transition to the next screen. So if you want to go ahead and create this same flow for all of these coffee types, which is this, and this, you're going to notice that this frame already have all of the components to go to the next screen. So you just have to create another version of this and have its title. So this is having the title of latte here, but you want to create another version of this and have its title. Basically what you want to do is to create another page like this and rename the title from whatever it is to cappuccino, and make sure you also rename it from the main home screen here, which is like the title that you're seeing here, right? I think it's this. Yeah, you can't see it here, but if you create a duplicate of that screen, you might want to add it and create. So you can go ahead to extend this and practice on your own when I leave the link in the description. But for this video, we are going to prototype only the last coffee here, right? Because there's still a number of pages that we need to create. You can see all of them here, and we don't have enough time to cover every single thing because it's just going to be a duplicate, and a copy of the same learning experience. So guys, it's time to start creating the sliding animation on our coffee items. First, I'm going to select all of this coffee, and I think we don't need the layout grid anymore. So I'm going to switch to the design, and I'm going to turn off the visibility of the layout grid. Now, the next thing we want to do is to select this and prototype to the next screen. But when we are prototyping from one screen to the next, it is best we have a unique name for all of the pages and all of the screens. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and copy the title here and then paste it here. I'm going to copy the title here and then paste it here. We're going to do the same thing for this so that we know the exact screen that we are working with. Because when it comes to prototyping, it is very easy for you to get confused, right? So now we can start creating our transition from one screen to the next. So I'm going to select this cappuccino item here, which is this coffee, the first one, and I'm going to click on this interaction. For the trigger, I want it to be on drag. So it's going to be an on drag, and the action is going to be a navigate to. The destination is going to be this Macheto screen. And we are going to leave the smart animate to 600 milliseconds. So before we go any further, let's just test out this very simple interaction we just created. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to click on this preview prototype so that we have an idea what just happened. If you click on this, you're going to see now there's an interaction on this. You can click and drag. This is very simple, guys. So let's go ahead and create a revert animation that we can drag back to this cappuccino cup. So I'm going to select the Macheto, and I'm going to create an interaction. It's going to be an on drag. Action is going to be navigate to, and the destination is going to be back to the cappuccino option, right? So if we do that and we select this and preview this, you can see we can drag to this. You can see we can drag to this, and we can also drag back, which is very simple. Now, once you have that, we can go ahead to create the same animation on all of these items. So this, we can also create a drag animation on drag, and it's going to navigate to, we also want to navigate to this Americano, and then smart animation 600 millisecond. I'm going to leave it at that because I want it to be really slow. And I'm going to do the same thing for this Americano option. First, it's going to go back. It's going to be an on drag. Navigate to, it's going to first go back to this option, this Macheto option. And then I'm going to make it 600 millisecond. I'm going to still add another interaction, still going to be an on drag, but this time we are going next to the latte option. So I'm going to select this 600 millisecond, and I'm going to close this up, and then I'm going to select this, and then we already have an on tap to take us to the next page. We want to create an on drag that is going to take us to another screen, which is this Americano coffee screen. 600 millisecond. Now, having this, I'm going to take out this flow point because the starting flow should not be this page. It should actually be the very first coffee here, which is this cappuccino coffee. And I'm going to place it here. So having this, we can click on preview to preview our prototype, and we can go ahead to start dragging to swipe. So you can see as soon as I click drag and swipe, we get to the next coffee, we get to the next coffee, and we can also come back, drag back till we get to the next coffee. So you can also notice there's a very subtle effect on this text. You can see that this is a little faded, and as soon as you drag out, there's this little fade option on the other secondary coffee. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to go ahead to start adding that. So I'm going to switch back to the design panel, select this, right? Here on this cappuccino option, I'm going to select every other text option. The macchiato, the Americano, and the latte. I'm going to fade it out to 40%. I'm going to close up the cappuccino option on this page and go to the next page here. For this next page here, we are going to open up this frame 40, and we are going to open up cappuccino, select the text, select this text and also this text. We are dropping the opacity down to 40%. We're going to do the same thing for this Americano screen. We're going to open it up, opacity for cappuccino text, the macchiato text, and then the latte text is going to drop to 40%. Then we are going to do the same thing for the last one here. If you open up the frame 40, we are going to have the cappuccino text, the macchiato text, and then the Americano text to drop its opacity down to 40%. Now, this is a very, very small detail that you can easily ignore. And as you can see in our preview, we don't really have enough of this showing, so it might not really matter much, but it's still something to consider. So you can see that as soon as you scroll, the focus becomes on this particular text, and you can see that other text here just goes back to like 40% opacity, which is also a very cool effect. So we've been able to create the prototype of this homepage, and as soon as we scroll to this last one and we click, we get this really nice transition. So if you've watched up till this point, I really appreciate your patience and your dedication to learning, especially if you're new to interactions and animations with Figma. It can be a little difficult and a little bit tricky if you do not know the basic principle that guides these designs. So let's close this up and get started with this particular page, because if you look at the flow, we actually have a lot more pages to create. Now we need to create a page that signifies the small cup, the medium cup, and the large cup. And we also need to create a prototype that indicates low concentration, medium concentration, high concentration. And we have to link all of this together so that the person can then proceed to processing the coffee and then the success page. The next thing that we need to do is to fix this medium and large sizing option. So I'm going to close this up, and here I'm going to move this all the way to this section, and I want to assume that this cup here is the small sized cup that we have. As you can see here, the button is on small. Then we can click on this and we can create a duplicate by holding down Alt or Option and creating a duplicate. What I want to also do here is to bring in a ruler guide just so that it tells us where the bottom of this cup is. And if you're finding it difficult for this ruler guide to go out of this, like I mentioned, you can easily bring this out, double click outside of your artboard and select a totally different frame from here, like this starter kit frame now, and then bring this back in. If you have a better method, please leave a comment in the comment section. Now we have where the baseline is. We also want to have like where it starts and where it ends, but because we are going to be increasing the size of this, we really won't need to create that. So what I want to do next for this second screen is to create the medium size, right? So I'm going to increase this up a little bit. You can see the width here is 294. I'm going to hit K and just scale this up a little bit more. Nothing serious. I'm just going to scale it a little bit more to like 331. Right, and I can do the same thing. I'm going to create a clone, and for this I'm going to increase the size also from 331. I'm going to scale it up until it gets to the medium size is 331. So this can be 300 and 380. And I'm just going to try to center it right in the middle. I'm going to hit V on the keyboard to revert back to the move tool. Now we have three options: one small, one medium, one large. You can as well create your different versions of small, medium, or large based on your preference, but I'm going to leave this like this. There isn't so much difference between them, but this should work for what we are trying to achieve. Now for this second one, we want to move this button all the way to the medium, and then we want to select the small text and change the fill back to black, and then reduce it from this medium to the regular text. For this, we are going to change it all the way to bold or to the semi-bold, and we're going to change the fill to white. Typically, it's going to be difficult for somebody to tap on just this letter. So what you might want to do is to hit F on the keyboard, draw out a frame around this, and then use this as your button, right? Rather than having the user target only this L shape, you can also have a rounded corner of 1000 so that this is rounded. If you click on the stroke, you can see that we have something like this. But because we've already started using this on all of our items, I don't think we are in the best place to start making changes. If you want to make changes, you would make changes for even the buttons that are invisible and that are present in this particular homepage or these coffee sliding pages. I don't know if you understand me. So that once there's a transition, the app still refers to this particular button rather than switching it up. So for this tutorial, we are going to leave it like this. You're going to be targeting the letter rather than a bigger space, which will be the typical situation if it's a real application. So for this L shape, we are going to do the same thing here. I'm going to move this all the way to the L, which is the large. I'm going to select the text. I'm going to make this text bold. I'm going to change the fill to white. I'm going to select this small text, revert it back to regular, and then change the fill to black. Now this is our screens for the different sizes. So I'm going to select this medium, switch to prototype, and just connect the wires all the way here. I'm going to do the same thing for large. Select the large, connect the wires all the way here. For the small button here, I'm going to connect it back. For the large text here, I'm going to connect it forward. And of course, you can see it's an on tap, navigate to, and it's going to the respective screen. We can go ahead to change the title of the screen, but let's finish up with the connection. I'm going to select this small and I'm going to connect it back. Let me zoom out a bit more. And I'm going to connect it back to this small screen, select the medium, connect it to this medium screen. We can go ahead to change the title of this to small size, medium size, and large size. Here, you can see that it is on drag, which is not what we want. We want to make it on tap, but there's an on tap animation on it also. I didn't see that. You want to be conscious of that. So I'm going to select this, remove the on tap animation, select this and change this to on tap. I'm going to check for every other on drag animation that is there. Make sure I set it to on tap. So you want to make sure all the settings are on tap rather than on drag. So if you come back to this coffee app, hit R on the keyboard to refresh, scroll back to the coffee we are working on and click on it, you can see that we can now click on each of these and we can have this really nice transition as we scroll along. Right, so medium increases a bit, large increases more. I think the transition timing is a bit much, 600 milliseconds. So I'm just going to reverse it back to 300 milliseconds for all the transitions because it's really slow with 600 milliseconds. So 300, 300, also 300 here. Also 300. This would also be 300. So having this, let's check our prototype, refresh, go to the actual coffee we are working with. And on hitting M, you can see this is a lot faster and this is so much better. But if you look at what we have here on LinkedIn, he also has this number here that shows the size, which is 100 milliliter, 200 milliliter, and whatever. You can add that to yours if you want, but I'm just going to ignore that so that we go into the main transitions. So after having this, now we have all three sizes. If you look at our flow, you can see here we have all three sizes: small, medium, and large. The next thing to do is for small, we should be able to go to the low, medium, and high concentration. For medium, we need to be able to go to the low, medium, and high concentration. And for the large, we need to be able to do this. So we have like 9 more pages to create when it comes to the buttons that are present in this section. So we've successfully created the interaction and the prototype of our sizing buttons. We can switch between the small, the medium, and the large cup of coffee. The next thing we want to focus on is the concentration button. Unlike the sizing buttons where we are using the untap trigger when you tap on a letter, in the concentration button we want to use an on-drag effect because we want the user to be able to drag along this scale. As you can see in the prototype here, if I replay this, you can see that he's dragging this and you can see this coffee pods dropping into the cup, right? So that's the effect we're trying to create. And to achieve that is actually quite simple. So first, I'm going to switch back to the design panel and we are going to be using this seed. So if we switch to the medium, we want to show this seed drop into the cup. And if we switch to the high, we want to show these seeds drop into the cup. So I'm going to select both of this, and as you can see the name here, medium coffee and high coffee. I'm going to duplicate by holding down Alt or Option and creating a duplicate here, and I'm going to align center both vertical and horizontal. So once I have this, I'm going to cut it with Command or Control X, and I'm going to paste it on these existing size screens that we have here. So I'm going to select all 3 of them and paste this. Now you can see that this is being pasted at the top of the layer. So we want to make sure that we move these items to the bottom of the layer. So I'm just going to drag all the way to the bottom, right? I want to make sure it is under the layer of this processing cup. So I'm going to move it and place it under the layer of this processing cup. And you can see that for this, it's also under the layer, and also for the last one below here is under the layer of the processing cup. And this is because if we drop this coffee down, let's just drop it down here, you can see that it is hiding behind the cup. So it gives us the effect of this coffee seed being dropped into the cup, right? But we don't want it to be here on these screens. We want it to be outside of the screen as its initial state. And you know, if you move this outside of the screen, it's going to leave the frame. So you need to hold down spacebar, then move it out of the screen just like this. Now, once these seeds are out of the screen, the next thing you want to do is to start creating your different screens for the low, medium, and high. We're going to start with the small cup. For the small cup, I'm going to create a duplicate. I'm going to hold Alt and create a duplicate for this. And for the name, I'm going to change the name from small size to low concentration. I don't know if concentration is the right word to use, but you understand what I mean. So for the small cup, we want to have the low, the medium, and the high. Right now we are in the low. I'm going to create another instance, and this is going to be for the medium concentration. And for this one, what we want to do is to open up the layers and select the medium coffee here that is outside of the screen. Click, hold down spacebar, and then pop it inside the cup, just like this. We want to make sure it's behind the cup, right? So this is to show that we are on the medium concentration, giving the effect that more coffee has been added. So you're going to select this button here and move it all the way to the middle. So that solves the situation for us for the medium concentration. I'm going to select this medium concentration, create a duplicate of this. And then for this duplicate, we still want to open it up and then select the high coffee, which is what we have here also. Click, hold down space and pop it into the cup again. So we have both of this, both the medium and the high inside the cup. Now for this button section, we want to click this and then drag it all the way to the high section. Now we can go ahead and create a prototype between these pages. So all I'm going to do is to click on this icon here, this button icon here, go to the prototype, click on drag. Of course, it's going to be an on drag, and we want to navigate to, and the screen we want to navigate to is the medium concentration. You can see here we have medium concentration. We have two medium concentrations, so you want to make sure that you rename this last page to high concentration so we don't get confused. So I'm going to select this again, remove this interaction. It's going to be an on drag. The action is going to be navigate to, and where we want to go to is medium concentration. So I'm going to click on this, and then you want to select this. Of course, we want to have an on drag again. We want to navigate to, and where we want to navigate to is low concentration, right? So you want to also do the same thing. You want to add another interaction. This other interaction is still going to be an on drag, and the action is navigate to, but now we are also going to high concentration. I'm going to close this up, select this button, and I'm going to do the same thing. The first option is going to go back to the medium concentration because that's the only point we can go to. Then from medium concentration, we can go down to the low concentration. So this is it, guys. This is the interaction we can create out of this. After creating this, you can now see that we have like two duplicates of this page here, this and this. But you can switch back to the design and go ahead and remove this first one, which is the previous one here. So I'm going to remove it, and then I'm going to move this all the way to the top, right? So we have the low concentration here, and we have both of this. So this takes both the small size and low concentration. So we can make it like this: small size slash low concentration. So this is what we have. Now for this, you want to make sure that you have your prototype properly stated. So we can click on this back and then create an on tap effect that brings us back to this page because we've deleted the original page that is supposed to be. Now let's go to our preview and see what we have created. I'm going to hit R to go back and reset all of this, right? So we can drag and swipe through our list of coffee. We can click on this, get our nice smooth transition, and as you can see, that copy drops into this. We can move from the medium to the large cup, can go back to the small cup. You can see that we can't go back to the small one from the large one. You want to fix that. So here we can select this small button here, and that's because we probably have deleted that first page. So we want to create a prototype back to this like this, and then we want to create a prototype back to this like this. So here you can see we can now switch back to the medium and the small, go to the large, and from the large we can go back to the small. Now on the large, we've not created the animation here, so we can't swipe through this. But if we go back to the small size, we can click on this and swipe through this, and you can see that coffee seeds adding on the cup, right? You can go back. It's going to feel as if you're removing it, right? So you can click drag to medium and then also drag to high. So if you drag to high, you can see another set of seeds being added. That means we are adding more coffee to this and making it more concentrated. You can reduce to the medium and reduce to low. So this is a really cool effect to create, and I hope you've been able to learn a thing or two. So let's go back to our designs. Now we've been able to create this. The next thing we want to do is at the medium, we want to also have something similar to this on the medium scale. So what I'm going to do is to switch back to the design. First, I'm going to rearrange all of this. I'm going to click on these two frames and I'm going to move them out of the way and bring in these two so that we have the small size with its concentration on the same row. We are going to do the same thing for the medium size. We are going to have the medium size and its concentration on the same row, and then we are going to have the large size and its concentration on the same row. So for this, what I'm going to do here is to create a duplicate of this medium size again. I'm going to create a duplicate here, and then I'm going to create another duplicate here. So for this, of course, we are going to move this to the middle, and then we are going to move this all the way to the end, right? And for this in the middle, for the medium size, we want to select the medium concentration, which is the medium coffee here, right? We want to move it down into the cup, and for this medium size slash high concentration, which is this, and for the medium slice slash medium concentration. So you want to have this. So for this, which is the last one here, we also want to open it up and go to the high coffee. You can see it's still outside of the artboard. Click, hold down spacebar, and also pop it into the cup. So once we have this, we can now create our interaction by clicking this, going to prototype, and then connecting the wires onto the next one. It's going to be an on drag, and every other thing remains the same. I'm going to do the same thing by selecting this, connecting back to this previous one. It's going to be an on drag, everything else remains the same. And I'm also going to connect to the high concentration. It's going to be an on drag, everything remains the same. And I'm going to select this and prototype it to the medium concentration, also going to be an on drag, everything remains the same. So if we click on preview, reset everything, and we can scroll to the latte coffee type that we are using for this sample. Click on this, we get this animation. We can switch between the medium, the large, go back to the small, and we can click to add more, click to add more. We can also drag to remove. And then if we switch to the medium size, we can do the same thing, switch to the medium, switch to the high, go back to the small. So we need to do one more of this for the large sized coffee. So I'm going to go back to this coffee cup, and we are going to do the same thing for this large coffee. I'm going to select this large, switch back to the design so that we stop seeing all those prototype wires, and I'm going to create two more duplicates of this. Hold down Alt or Option, create a duplicate, do the same thing here. So for this is large size slash medium concentration, and this is large size slash high concentration. So just like we've been doing, you can move this all the way to the middle and move this all the way to the end, right? Also, if you select the entire frame here, you can come here, come to the high coffee or the medium coffee rather, move it in, hold down spacebar, don't forget to do that. Click on it, hold down spacebar, and move it into the cup. Can do the same thing for the high. Select this high coffee, click on it, hold down spacebar, and move it into the cup. You want to make sure for this high, you want to make sure the medium coffee is also inside of the cup. You want to click on it, hold down spacebar, and bring it in. Because once you've added the seed, you want to select this button and start creating our prototype. I'm going to prototype this, of course, to the next one. It's going to be an on drag. Every other thing remains the same. For this, we are also going to prototype it to the previous one, also going to be an on drag. Every other thing remains the same. Prototype to the next one, it's going to be an on drag. Close this up, then select this and prototype it back to the previous one. It's going to be an on drag, and I'm going to close this up. Now that we have this, we can click on our prototype and restart. We are going to slide and move to the latte option, click on it, and then we can go to the large option here and then and then move to the high. As you can notice, there's this twist in transition once we are moving between medium and high. And even if I go to the medium option and I move here and then move here, it's the same thing. So let's quickly fix that. So to fix that, I'm going to open up the medium size first, and I'm going to go to the high concentration. What exactly is happening? I'm going to switch to the design panel, and as you can see here, for the medium concentration, we have this outside of the frame, while in this, it is inside of the frame. So what we need to fix that is to bring this back into this cup frame. So I'm going to select it, hold down spacebar, and bring it into the cup frame. I'm going to do the same thing for this. I'm going to select this, go to the medium coffee concentration, click on it, hold down spacebar and bring it into the cup. And just with that, we should be able to fix that issue. So if I go back to our animation and restart, I'm going to scroll all the way to what we need. Click on this latte option. We can now switch to the medium, then drag here, and go back. You can now see that we don't have that effect again. Just by going back, we only have more seeds being removed. And if we go to the large size, it's also been fixed here, right? So that's how we fix this. So guys, in general, we've been able to create, if I restart this, we've been able to create this sliding animation. We can create this effect of a single details page. We can scale up the cup by switching to the large, medium, and small. We can also add more coffee here to increase the concentration and reduce the concentration, be it a small coffee or a large coffee. So let's go ahead and now continue to place an order, since that's what is next from here. So I'm going to go back to the coffee designs that we are creating, and I'm going to go to this LinkedIn profile and then play it up so that we see what happens when you click on next. So basically, when you click on next, we only have the coffee and the text that says almost done. Our title here will be gone, and our buttons here will be gone, and the continue button here will be gone. So we are going to have only the cup and this text. Then with this loading animation, then I'm going to leave it here on this animation for a while. Then we are going to have this water and coffee dropping into the cup, and then we are going to close the lid. So for that particular screen, I'm going to duplicate the last screen that we have here. Hold down Alt and create a duplicate. Now for this screen, I'm going to select this back arrow button. I'm going to hold down, click and hold down spacebar and just move it out of the artboard. I'm also going to select this and move it out of the artboard like this. I'm also going to select both of these buttons and this continue text, click, hold down spacebar and move them out of the artboard. Now from here, I also want to click on all of these coffee seeds and completely remove them from the page entirely, so that we only have this coffee cup placed right here. Now, the next thing we want to have is this loading animation thing. So I have this strokes here, or this line. I'm just going to copy it and I'm going to paste it here inside here. I'm also going to reduce its color to something very subtle, and I'm going to leave it like this. I'm also going to add a text that says almost done. This is going to be poppins. I'm going to make it semi-bold or bold, and I'm going to make it a lot bigger. I'm going to reduce the letter spacing between this. I think semi-bold is okay. Then I'm just going to position it like this. I'm also going to create a text and say, please wait a moment while we prepare your coffee. This is going to be 14 pixel in terms of its size, and I'm going to use the plus Jakarta Sans font. I'm going to remove the letter spacing, and then I'm going to make this light. I'm going to then position this here and also reduce its line height and center align the text just like this. Let's create a transition from this continue button down to this page and see what it looks like. So I'm going to switch to prototype and then create a prototype that comes to this page, and we can then preview what this looks like. So for this, I want it to be a smart animate 300 millisecond. I think that's okay. So let's go ahead and prototype this. Remember, the transition is on this large and high button, as you can see here. Large and high button. I'm going to create it on every other screen, but for now, let's just work with this button. So here, let's click on continue, and you can see how we have this really nice effect, right? So if you click on continue, everything goes away and we have this. So I think this works for now. Now we need to create the animation where the water and the coffee is dropping into the cup. So I'm going to create this, And for this, I'm going to copy this element here. I think at this point we've used almost all the elements except for this lead, which is going to be coming in the last stage of this screen. So I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to copy this liquid assets that we have here, and I'm going to paste it inside of this last screen that we just created, and I'm going to rename this to initial processing screen. And I'm going to paste in the liquid that we are going to be using. So for these liquid items here, the first thing we need to do is make sure it is showing behind this cup. So I'm going to click on it and make it to be below the layer of this processing cup. But it cannot completely be hidden behind this cup, as you can see that it's going to overflow here. So what we can also do is to create a rectangle, right, on this particular section, just like this, and then fill the rectangle with this particular background color. But then this rectangle is going to be also below the processing cup and below all of these items here, like the loading SVG and the text, right? So once we've done that, we want to make sure that when we start moving this coffee and water, it is not showing outside of the cup. So I'm going to move this down a bit and then select this, the coffee and the water, and I'm going to move it up a little bit more. I'm going to click on it, hold down spacebar, and just move it up completely. The next thing we are going to do here is to now create another screen of this, and this screen, I'm just going to duplicate this like this. And for this screen, we are going to open it up, select this coffee and water option, and we are going to move it into the frame, clicking, holding down spacebar and moving it into the frame till it is completely invincible, just like this. Now let's look at what the preview looks like. If I go back and I click on continue, you can see we have something like this. Now from here, we want to immediately create a transition to the next screen. It might not be fully immediate, but we want to select this screen and we want to switch to the prototype menu, and then we want to navigate to this using an after delay. So that after delay can be 800 milliseconds. Let's work with that and see. And then the duration for this transition can be much longer. We can say 600 milliseconds. And also we want to have this ripple effect looking as if it's loading. So we are going to select it here. Let's switch back to the design panel. We are going to select it here and we are going to move it all the way to the left. I'm just going to move it here, minus 150. Let's see what that looks like. Minus 300. So once we have this, let's see what the prototype is going to look like. So I'm going to go back to the previous screen, click on this, and then you can see that this is actually way too fast. So we are going to select this prototype, switch to the prototype, and the after delay, we want to make it 800 milliseconds. I think that's okay. But for the duration is what we want to increase to 4000 milliseconds, which is like 4 seconds. So I'm going to close this up, go back here, and we are going to restart this. So you can see this really nice animation. I actually think 4 seconds is very good, although we can make it a lot slower. So let's try 6 seconds, which is 6000 milliseconds, right? I'm going to close this up and let's try this. Let's see how this looks like. I think this is very good. You can actually chill and see your animation. Now, once this is done, once this is completed, we want to now go to the last phase, which is to actually close up the lid, show a success message or a thank you message, and then we've come to the end of this particular design. Now, this is the last page, and this is what we are going to try and replicate. So from here, let's go back to our design. And from here, we are going to create, of course, the very last page. I'm going to switch back to the design panel here. And let's position this properly back up here. Like this. And like this. Please, if you've watched up to this point, do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share with friends if you find this video helpful. In order to create the last page, which is this final page here with this success model and the lead closed, I'm going to go back to this design, and you will know that the first thing you need to know about creating interaction is the fact that information that is going to be on the next page should already exist in the previous page. So for this initial processing, I'm going to select this and paste in this "your coffee is ready" success message, because that's the only thing that we need on this page that is currently not on this page. We're not going to be adding this close item. I'm just going to leave the button here. So I'm going to copy a button here, like this continue button. I'm going to copy this, and I'm also going to just paste this. Because of time, we won't do the X button, but you can also go ahead and do that yourself. So once we have this, we can now create a duplicate. But before we create a duplicate, I'm going to select this, click on it, hold down spacebar, and then move it out of the artboard. I'm going to do the same thing for this continue button. Click on it, move it out of the artboard a little bit more. Now I'm going to click on this and create a duplicate, and for this duplicate, I'm going to rename it to success screen. So for the success screen, the first thing is to remove the items that are of the previous screen, which is this text and this loading animation here. Click, hold down spacebar, and just bring it out. Next, we want to bring in the button. So for this button, you're going to click and bring it into this artboard. We also might want to change the text here to thanks, and also I'm going to copy this since we've already changed the text, and also here on this, I'm going to replace the button here to be this same button. So here we also want to select and bring in these greetings, which I think is this. Click on it, hold down spacebar, and just bring it into the artboard. I also want to move this cup and also the coffee and water, because remember, this coffee and water item is behind the cup. Click and also move it down a little bit more so that we have enough room for the lead and also for this. So I'm going to move this a little bit down, and also remember from the beginning, we also added the black lead, which is this here from this asset. Now you can see that this is a bit smaller. You can go ahead and scale it up, because as you can see, we are using the large sized cup for this sample. But I have already scaled it up. You can go ahead and scale yours up. So I'm going to select the lead here, which is invincible. Click, hold down spacebar, and also bring it into our design. Right, so this shouldn't be difficult to create, and just with this, we have completely created our animation. Now, selecting or clicking on these tanks, we can prototype it back to the very first page of this design. Just like this, on tab, it's going to navigate. You can use a smart animate if you like. So from here, let's look at what the transition is from this initial processing to this success screen. So once you've created this, the next thing we want to do is to have a prototype from this particular initial screen all the way to the success screen. So I'm going to come to this interaction and click on plus. It's going to be an after delay. I'm going to leave the default after delay of 800 milliseconds. I think this is actually too much, but I'm going to leave it here. And then we are navigating to the success screen. You want to make sure you turn on the animation to smart animate, and we can then close this up. So if you go back to this, you can see that once you hit on continue here, it's going to show this little nice processing animation while we wait for your coffee. And once this is done, it's going to create the next screen. This is really beautiful, guys. And this is how you can create an animation like this. This concept can scale up to so many different things that can be achieved when it comes to interaction and animation in Figma. But you want to try as much as possible to limit the complexity, the use of components and auto layout, so that it gives you the full control of all of the elements. Thank you guys for watching. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. And I'm going to see you guys in my next video. Let's take a look at this from the beginning. I'm going to hit thanks to get us to the first page. And here you can see we can scroll between pages, can hit the latte option. We can move between different cup sizes. We can switch between different concentration. We can continue. It takes us here. We get this nice processing animation, and once it has completely processed this, we are going to get our success message, and it's going to close up the lead. So this is actually really nice. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you've been able to learn a thing or two about prototyping and animation and interactions in Figma. I'm going to see you in my next video. Bye for now. So one thing you need to note is that if we go back to our design, the interaction down to this processing page is only on this button, right? So we can go to the design, select this button or select every other button here and prototype them down to this page, right? You want to have all the buttons prototyped down to this page. I don't know what the interaction is going to look like because it's on Smart Animate, but I'm not going to think too much about that since you already have an idea of what the concept should be. So I'm going to select all of this button and prototype them down to this processing page so that regardless of what page you are, you should be able to navigate down to the processing option. Now I'm going to go back to this coffee, restart this. Let's go back and select a cup of coffee, which is this latte option here. So from this first one, we should be able to go to this page. If we go back from the medium-sized coffee with low concentration, we still should be able to go to this page. If we go back from the large size, low concentration or medium concentration, we still should be able to go to this page. So that's why we need to connect all of those buttons. So guys, you can see that from this page, we can continue and you're going to get our loading animation. Your coffee is being processed at the moment. Please wait a moment. And once it is done, we get to close the lead and give you a success message. So thank you so much guys for watching. I hope this video have been helpful. I hope you've been able to learn a thing or two. Please do not forget to hit the like button, share this video and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Bye for now, and I'm going to see you guys in my next video.